I am a feminist. And quite often, when someone asks what feminism is, I tell them it's pretty simple. If you look it up on the dictionary or on Google, you're going to get the same definition: the political, social, economic equality of the sexes. And that's true, but it's also a lot more complex. A lot of this complexity comes with what's called intersectional feminism, which, in my opinion, is what true feminism really is. Intersectional feminism is feminism that has a specific focus on including people of all colors, nationalities, abilities, genders, orientations, and social statuses. You can think of intersectional feminism like an intersection, with the different roads being the different issues socially that have to do with feminism. However, there's a red light in the middle and it's stopping progress from being made towards equality. If we can turn this light green by using intersectional feminism in our day-to-day life, we can stop discrimination from happening and make equality more of a reality. I think I've always been a feminist, even before I knew what feminism was. From the time I was young, I knew that I was viewed differently because I was a girl. A couple memories stand out to me. One of the most important memories that made me aware of this was in middle school gym class. One day, they took all the boys outside, let them play football, and they sat us girls down in the gym and taught us the rules of football. Now, I already knew how to play football, and I'm pretty sure most of the other girls did too, but they just assumed we didn't know because we were girls. Another situation in middle school is that around every spring, they would gather all the girls in a room and remind us of the dress code to make sure we weren't a distraction to others. And while these issues are not what feminism is only about, what they made me aware is gender differences as a kid, and it made me feel that feminism is so important to our society today. And as I've learned more about it, I've realized that it's so much bigger. One of the roads that's being blocked by discrimination in our society today is our democracy. Female politicians are not taken as seriously as male politicians. They're judged on things like their fashion choices, their makeup, and even their likability. They have different standards from male politicians, and that has to stop. Thankfully, a lot more women have been getting involved in politics lately. As you all know, in the 2016 presidential election, a woman was nominated by a major party. In the 2018 midterms, record numbers of 117 women were elected, including 42 women of color. This did amazing things for representation. Another issue that intersectional feminism should combat is the treatment of the LGBTQ+ community in our society today. You may think of this as a slightly different issue, but they have a lot of similarities. Sometimes, feminism might only focus on cisgender women, which is why we need specifically intersectional feminism to focus on including the LGBTQ+ community in order to stop discrimination against people's sexual orientation and their gender. Another issue we have to think about is a little bit more global. Girls in their education do not have the same opportunities as boys across the world. We have to expand our mindset because we might not think of this in America today because we all are lucky enough to go to school, but that isn't the case in a lot of countries. In many poor countries, girls are not able to go to school, or some children are not able to go to school at all. I'm sure we're all familiar with the story of Malala, who was brave enough to go to school despite all the dangers that it came with. We have to expand our feminism to think about girls across the world and the hardships that they face instead of just what we face in our day-to-day lives. This leads me into my next issue, about race. You cannot completely separate gender and race when you're talking about intersectional feminism. We have to completely abandon something called white feminism. Now, a white feminist is not just a white person who claims to be a feminist. A white feminist is somebody who claims to be a feminist but doesn't think about the racial issues that it encompasses. They only think about it in terms of themselves and don't think about what non-white women have to deal with in their day-to-day lives. This is most clearly demonstrated by the economic situation today. I'm sure you've all heard of the gender pay gap, which is 77 cents to $1. But how many of you guys knew that that only applied to white women? Because for black women, according to the National Partnership for Women and Families, they make 61 cents to the dollar, and Latina women make 53 cents to $1. Not only does this discriminate against gender, but it shows us that racism is still institutionalized in our society today. And that's why we need specifically intersectional feminism to combat both racial and gender discrimination. These are only a few issues that intersectional feminists want to combat today. It's clear that sexism is still an issue in our society. This is demonstrated by the recent Time's Up and Me Too movements that have brought the issues of sexual harassment to light. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 1 in 3 women will experience sexual violence in their lifetime. And for far too long, our society has been dominated by men, specifically white men, but this is changing. We have to acknowledge how far we've come throughout history, all the wonderful progress we've made, but at the same time, we have to know that we're not all the way there yet. We haven't reached a true ideal of equality. If you think about 1920, what comes to mind? The 19th Amendment allowed women to be able to vote for the first time in 1920. And the 2020 election coming up is the 100th anniversary of this. And I've been thinking about this election for a while because not only is it the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, but it's the first time I get to vote. Wouldn't it be amazing if on the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, we elected a woman to be president? If we were able to combat all these social issues, it's going to take a lot of work. But if we use intersectional feminism, we can turn the light on the intersection green, and we can start progress going to solve all the different social issues that boil down to gender. And this is why we need intersectional feminism in our society today, then, now, and always. Thank you.